Hello, everybody. This is the Why Ukraine live stream. I'm back. It's shocking. Last time when I said it was probably my last live stream, I really meant it. To be honest with you, I have been planning for a long time for something right around there to be my last live stream. And I'm kind of not happy that was not my last live stream. Not because I don't love you guys and talking to you guys. It's great. But my intention was to have rejoined the International Legion by then. And I haven't yet. And it really bothers me. The subject came up last time. We had a troll, an insider, someone pretending to be a Ukraine supporter, but who is actually a Russian troll, giving me shit for that. And by the way, hi everybody. Wow, Catherine, salt of the red earth. It's good to see you. I'm going to talk about a couple of personal things. So if you're watching this on recording, you can skip ahead maybe to the middle or so. And I'll get into the news. The news here in Ukraine. Mitch, fantastic. Great to see everybody coming in. Yeah, so I was a little pissed off I'm always pissed off. What am I saying? I was a little pissed off last live stream because we had this insider. And I ended up having a conversation with him. Oh, the move. Oh, Jesus. I'm going to get to that, Catherine. God. I ended up having a conversation with King Raccoon for about an hour after our last live stream, which was a complete waste of my time, but it was good for the purposes of investigation. Yeah, the situation is last week, and I can't remember if it was before or after the live stream I did last week, because I think it was Wednesday for me. Yeah. It's so frustrating. So I threw my back out. Threw my back out on Tuesday. Luckily, I mean, I think I just pulled something, and it's completely my fault. I did a workout without stretching properly. Yeah, it's probably just as well. Jonathan, that you missed the drama. It's okay. It's not a big deal. But I pulled my back out doing my workout because I was like my last workout last week, because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do a short workout. I don't need to bother with a warm up. I forget the fact that yes, exactly, Catherine, exactly. And so I had to do the entire move. As you can see, I am in a new place. You can it couldn't get much more Ukrainian than this. I've got a freaking icon behind me. I don't know what saint that is. I'm a Yazichnik, so I don't follow this stuff. Yeah, so I had to do the entire move, packing up everything. With like my back actually is still hurting right now as we speak. Like you notice how I'm sitting up straight. Like if I lean over too much like this, I start to feel the pain. So it's forcing me to keep good posture. Fucking ridiculous. It's so frustrating. But so some people were asking towards the end of the last live stream, how are you doing health wise? I was like, oh my god. So the situation is, if you want to know, um, and here I can go to full screen there. So I dislocated my wrist. I dislocated my wrist uh, coming off like a 4 meter wall where I like was hanging and it kind of like jerked my wrist. And it's not a normal dislocation. In other words, most people dislocate their wrists by falling on their wrist. Mine physically popped in this direction, like separated from the bone this way, which is a much more serious dislocation. And anytime you have an injury on, anytime you have an injury from, anytime you have an injury on your ligaments and tendons, it takes a lot longer to heal. And I did not know this when Catherine. Like I did not know this when it happened, that it would take this long. So in my this happened in my first week in training, and I continued to train for altogether like another month. Um, and yeah, um, yeah, I continued to train for like another month, all told, altogether, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse, and it got to the point where I couldn't even scratch my balls without. I would feel my wrist physically physically dislocate and be like, I sure as hell couldn't pick up an AK. It was ridiculous. And I was doing the obstacle course, doing everything. And it was in the same week, in the first week, I did that. And then they had us just randomly do. And you have to understand, it's a little bit ad hoc with the training. Some people have argued about its effectiveness or necessity, the particular training that they have us do. I don't mean like running through a NATO obstacle course. Catherine, you're like, I'm getting the heebie-jeebies. Um, yeah, yeah. So a knee replacement, yeah. It just takes a long time, and then so in the first week they also had us doing fireman carries, which is where you take a guy's arm here and a leg here and carry them on your back. And hello, Anna. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Um, yeah, so and it was just random. It was like, do it now, go, Um, and with no like instruction on, I've never done a fireman carry before. And of course, I'm 6'3", 6'2", 3, something like that. And 200 something pounds. And everybody else, was small little dudes. Nobody wanted to carry me except for one guy who was my weight, the same weight as me, but like half the size, like a freaking dwarf. Basically, one is totally short, really fat. Well, not really fat. He was moderately fat guy. And somehow I got paired up with him. And I so I had to get way, way down to pick this guy up, and I heard my back pop, and I just went, ow, 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 ow. I've never had a back problem in my life. Never had my back thrown out, ever. Always had a really strong back. Until that moment. So, and again, I kept training for altogether like another month. And just like, I'm gonna get through this, you know. So yeah, it just takes a long time. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Yeah. But yeah, the the insider thing, the infiltration. Uh, yeah, like I keep running, right, Catherine? Yeah. Um, but I hate to say it, JP, or Jonathan MS Pierce, ATP Geopolitics, he was talking about how, God, the trolls, uh, they come in waves and they're just coming out of the woodwork. Last week and this week, um, and uh, yeah, man. Oh, Cheryl, thanks for coming. You missed it. You can go back a little bit. I was just talking about my health and the condition of my wrist and my recovery. Um, so now I'm as you can see, I'm back in. This is technically my hometown in Ukraine. In other words, you have to register for a certain town, and this is where I'm registered. Yeah, yeah. But where these trolls that we're dealing with, it's very interesting. I have had to deal with them for, well, kind of secondhand for many years. My son um, plays a game called Minecraft, and it's kind of crazy because he's in his 20s, but this is, I don't know if you know anything about Minecraft or the gaming world in general, but it's full of awful trolls. And to be honest, this is where a lot of these trolls that we're dealing with get their um, kind of get their uh, training. Their initial training is by doing online trolling in different types of games. And uh, there's a for Minecraft, there's a server that's called 2b2t. It's, if you were a big gamer, if you were a huge gaming nerd, like 2b2t is like famous Minecraft, kind of a famous Minecraft thing. And it's the quote unquote the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. An anarchy server means effectively you can do anything. You can be as big of a jackass as you want. And this is where they go, and they're just terrible to each other. And it really is like warfare. It really is like warfare. And they form up little groups. There's a lot of 4chan stuff going on. If you don't know what 4chan is, um, that's another place where these trolls kind of learn their chops. His troop talking points were so last week. Yeah, no, but they really do have weekly meetings. They have like a call center effectively. Yeah, Catherine, normally Minecraft is a very innocent game, but if you go on to some of these online servers, like 2b2t would be one, um you know it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And if you want to learn more about how awful it is, it's kind of funny to watch. I recommend Fit MC here. He's a good one. He actually makes his living just documenting how terrible people are to each other on Minecraft. The whole point of Minecraft is building. Yeah, if you don't know what 4chan is, you're lucky. I mean, 4chan is where QAnon started, you know. Oh, well, they are. They exactly are. Uh, Powerless in life and weak-minded zombies who couldn't function in life. Yes, that's exactly what they are, and they get their jollies torturing people online. Um, you know, they're they usually start out when they're like between 12 and 14, so they're like 12 and 14-year-old boys playing online games and just being complete assholes to each other. So yeah, if incels and what have you, yeah, and then they find out that Putin will pay for them to continue doing what they're doing. Yeah, and then and Mitch, and there a lot of them are on Discord. This is why I'm so careful with my Discord server. My son operates a 2B2T Minecraft Discord group that specifically tries to fight against these trolls. It's an never-ending fight, and he's constantly trying to fight off. Well, that's how they start, and then they're they're playing Minecraft. It's a yeah, good, Catherine. Troll the trolls, but be prepared, because God. And what they will do is people will form groups within a game, and then other trolls will try to get inside of those groups, find out where their secret base is, destroy the secret base, and it's good training for information warfare and being a spy and all of that. So I've on a secondhand basis, I've learned how to watch for these types, and just some real interesting. Like, I actually screenshotted here. This is from King Raccoon, and boy, he seems really like. So January 21st, he messaged me, and he's like, hey, we're something about 3D printers. Can you get the 3D printers to them if we get them to Ukraine? And I never responded. I didn't see the message because I'm on like 15 different platforms. So last week, after the live stream, after he pulled his shit, I went on and I said, like, what the fuck is your actual problem, dude? And so he accused me, I don't know, of all kinds of crazy stuff. But basically, the end result is he didn't have proof that. So he apparently has a warehouse full of drones, he says. Where does he say that? Yeah. Why did you say you could home 3D printers for drones? We have shipped them with loads of supplies to Poland, and you just ignore everything. And I said, okay, so you actually have the drones/printers? As far as I knew, it was just talks, just plans. Show me pictures of the printers. 20. He says 20,000 pounds worth of drones in Poland, while you sell secondhand kit and T-shirts. And he tries to pull like his street cred. So I said, great. Show me the receipts. Show me some proof that you have it. And he couldn't do it. I said, that's all you got to show me, dude. He said, how can I send you pics from a warehouse in Poland while I'm in England? Well, don't you have like screenshots of the order, some communications you've had with someone about this? What I think what he was real. I'm sorry, guys. I know that maybe you guys know this person. I thought he was a good guy. I hate to, like, out someone who is supposed to be in our group, but I think this is a case of, of an insider, essentially. I mean, it's possible that I'm wrong. Maybe he's donated thousands of dollars. but he just says, "I am King Raccoon." You know, ask Greg Terry, ask Dr. G. They all know me. Well, I'm sure they do. If you're, yeah, don't, yeah. I mean, I hear from a lot of people who have ideas of things they'd like to do, and it's great. I appreciate all of that. Yeah, exactly. How on earth would he know they're actually there if he's in England and the drones are in Poland? Exactly. I think what he was trying to do ultimately is get information about. So if I'm supposed to send these 3D printers to some drone, I'm the Lizard King. Yeah, I'm the Duke of Earl or whatever. I think it was trying to do ultimately is get information about where these secret drone manufacturers and labs are. Like maybe I have that information or something, and which I don't. Um, but it's just like the game, just like in Minecraft 2b2t, you try to find out where other people's bases are and then blow them up. So he would get a big bonus if he could get some information like that. And then at the same time, on the same day, I've gotten a couple of messages, and because these trolls work together, they really do have weekly meetings. They're like, okay, we're gonna hit up this tiny, um, yeah. Canada's sending a bunch of them, bunch of drones. It's yeah. Um, so I've gotten this message from somebody who claims to be in Colombia, and now he claims that he's a police officer in the Colombian police force. He says, "I cannot join your live streams because of my work. My older brother is in the Foreign Legion. He kind of remembers Tony. He couldn't remember you." And then he basically goes on to accuse me of, I don't know, not being real or something. Well, that's the thing, right? That So, Catherine, this is what these insiders try to do is they want to get into these groups, and they're kind of like sleeper cells. You know what I mean? So, yeah, yeah. So, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's just interesting that I got this guy and King Raccoon at the same time. You know, I mean, trust but verify, guys. That's the real point here because this is a real war. Absolutely. You know. And one big thing that they try to do is these trolls is they try to make us, not trust each other so that we're so paranoid that we're tearing each other apart. And that's a big part of what they do. So, and that's what he was doing here on this channel, was saying, "Oh, this guy's not 100%." You know, so that makes it suspect. Anyway, so I'm bringing it up to you, and you can investigate and be aware. Anyway, enough about stupid last week's drama and stupid video games, 4chan, and all that crap. We're going to get into Ukrainian viewpoints on things. So, by the way, I am going to get into like the real news. That's going to be probably after this. It'll be after this. So, yeah. Hey, Catherine. Okay. So I gave my students an assignment, one of my classes an assignment this week, which was to read a couple of articles in the American news media, and fairly high-level articles. So this one's from The Economist, and this one is from The Atlantic. So compared to your average American news article, these ones are at a little bit higher level, not written for 12-year-olds maybe. And just kind of, give their how would they respond to these articles. And so I'd like to just share with you the responses that a couple of my students made. They actually made written responses. So one of my students, so this is a short history of Russia and Ukraine, right? And it's ostensibly a pro-Ukraine article. So this is written January 29th. And I think is that before or after the Tucker Carlson interview? I think it's just before, maybe. So here's what they said about it, right? One of my students, Pavlo, he said, surprisingly, I had real trouble writing a commentary about the Economist piece. It's not because I have nothing to say, but precisely the opposite. The problem I grapple with is the following. What is the specific request of a native English speaker about Ukrainian history? Is it about fact-checking Putin's delusional speeches? Then this article is sufficient for that. But if it is about some kind of a story behind the facts in the article, this piece is by far not enough to tell it. I tried to do it with my friends a number of times. The problem was that we didn't have a shared larger history into which I should have inserted the smaller Ukrainian story. You understand? So what he's saying here is the Ukrainian history is so deep and so rich and so complex, but it's been kept secret or separated from Western history for so long that well, I'll continue. We have always ended not with whats or whens. Why did an ordinary English speaker never hear of Ukraine? Why did Ukrainians emerge out of the blue to claim they are Europeans and Westerners? Why Putin time and again spends hours to argue the Ukrainians are Russian? These whys are probably the most important questions to answer. So I think it's an important point, right? That I know that there's all kinds of other things going on, and grenades and artillery and everything else, but never forget that this subject, history, and the common ground of how Ukraine fits into the shared history of Europe and the West. And if you've seen my previous live streams, you'll know that in fact Ukraine is the secret forgotten mother of Europe and the West. In fact, the birthplace of these things that we know so well. And the problem is that a lot of Ukrainians don't even know that and don't know their own history. In fact, I just taught, I'll read you another response from another one of my students. I just taught, by the way, here's the article. I will link it in our group. Hey, Sally, thanks for coming in. We're talking about boring stuff like history. Okay. Wow. You were told by a Serbian immigrant customer on Friday that I should watch the Carlson interview because he thought it was really good. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, because they believe all of that history, which again, when I was talking the last time I was talking about Ukrainian history when King Raccoon was in here in our group. That's when he first lost his shit, remember? That's when he was like, bullshit, and he just freaking raged on the keyboard for a minute. And we were like, why are you so angry, King Raccoon? And then he got a handle on himself and he remembered, oh shit, I'm supposed to be a pro-Ukraine guy. Oh, I forgot for a second. You know. Yeah. Cheryl, that's exactly the point that I made to my students. The problem seems to be that most universities have Russian language and history programs, but not Ukrainian language and history. And so articles, like this that are supposedly pro-Ukraine are actually written entirely from a Russian perspective. And so, I try to share the history from a Ukrainian perspective, which is very, very different. Or at least, yeah, it was a dead giveaway, Max. I'm sorry to say, it's really quite sad. So, I'm going to share right now. This is on my community tab page. But so with regards to this article here, my student said, let's see, I really appreciate your willingness. Speaking to you guys, she is, right? Dear foreign reader of this article, I really appreciate your willingness to better understand what is going on with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Please read carefully the considerations below before or while you will be reading this article. And I do recommend that you guys read it. I appreciate the author's intention to tell the history behind the Russian-Ukrainian relationship. However, some phrases can lead to confusion. When the author explains Putin's crazy thought about the internal forces separating Ukraine and Russia, he or she uses the phrase, Mr. Putin's war is supposed to fix that. I just want you to understand that there is no Putin's war. It is deeply incorrect to use such a phrase. There is only Russia's war in Ukraine, period. Every Russian citizen residing in or out of Russia is responsible for this war by doing nothing, by paying taxes in Russia, by supporting it through Russia's propaganda, or by taking an active part in the killings, rapings, and attacks. Putin is just an old crazy guy who manages the war. Russian people are those who do it. Yeah, you're right, Jonathan. Some of this stuff, people Google it and then put down as truth. Yeah, and that's a problem. That's why I'm trying to make it my job to present something else. 2. Rus is the origin of the word Russia, but only because Russia appropriated this name. Historically, Rus refers to the territories of the entity that originated in the 9th century with Kiev as its center. At that time, there was nothing on the current Russian territory. The true name for Russia should be Moscovia, which was the name of the entity on Russian territory in the 13th century. Russia became known as the Russian Empire in the 17th century by appropriating the name Rus. And that's absolutely right. Remember, I talked about how the prince and later declared himself czars of Vladimir, even before Moscow was founded, took over the Republic of Novgorod after they were subservient to the Mongols as a vassal state of the Mongols. And they, their job under the Mongols was basically to rape and pillage as much of the actual Russian territories as they possibly could. And they just after the Mongols faded away, they just continued to do that. Yeah, interesting. See? KK's GG. When I asked him why he was so bothered by what James was talking about, he just said, because it's lies, and then left the stream. It's very interesting what sets off these Russian trolls. What actually sets them off is not like something silly and stupid like history will like send them into a freaking spiral. Sure, I used to think, yeah, Cheryl, you said used to think it was Putin's war at the beginning of the full scale invasion. Yeah, now I know that a Russian supremacist imperialist attitude is deeply embedded in Russian society. Yeah, and I have come to know that as well. Sadly, sadly. Yeah, Mitch, what Catherine said. I mean, dude, it's nice here. I know that there's a war going on and everything, but I think JP was talking about how he actually, when he came back to England this past week, he realized, in fact, he was actually calmer in Ukraine than he was back home. It was less stress in Ukraine than he felt back home. And that is very interesting, right? Yeah, Catherine the Great. Yes. Yeah, who German princess who married in and then overthrew the Russian Tsar. It's pretty ironic, actually. Um, so just continue, and I have 3 more points to make. Remember, I want to present Ukrainian viewpoints, so I apologize if all of this history is boring to you. But so she quotes from the article. In 1654, threatened by the Poles as well as the Ottomans to the south, Cossack leaders pledged allegiance to the Tsar of Muscovy. Ooh, this is a big deal. So this has to deal with Khmelnytsky. There's a Bogdan Khmelnytsky. Now remember, the Russia has allegedly a allegedly a battalion of quote unquote Ukrainians who have switched sides. Ukrainian soldiers who after being captured switch sides and are fighting for Russia. Although a lot of people say that that's fake. But they call it the Khmelnytsky Battalion. Interesting. King Raccoon started spelling it Racoon, and the avatar looks different. So maybe there is a real King Raccoon out there, and he's like, God damn it, why can't I get into any of my accounts? Because he's been totally hacked. Yeah. Anyway, so this is a big deal. All right, so let me just read what my Ukrainian student said. Before pledging allegiance to the Tsar of Muscovy, the Cossacks attempted to establish alliances with other groups. For instance, they initially sought assistance from the Crimean Tatars, but were unsuccessful. Khmelnytsky was compelled to seek aid from the Tsar in order to preserve autonomy. These historical circumstances do not demonstrate that the Cossacks willingly chose this path. Rather, it was the last resort to safeguard their autonomy. Today, Russians and Pyotr distort this historical fact, as they often do with real history, to assert that Ukraine and Russia are meant to be together. So you had essentially Ukraine in the middle between the Ottomans to the south, the Poles to the west, and Russia to the east and north. And the Cossacks were just trying to keep, so they would change allegiances between the Poles, and then they'd fight for the Tatars or the Ottomans, and then they would go and fight for the Russians for a little while. It was never intended to be a permanent thing. It was okay, we're going to ally with you for a little bit, and then there was never King Raccoon imposter, quite possibly. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, you guys, I don't know. Anyway, so uh I just want to bring up let's see, Cossack letter to the Sultan. Very famous painting and very famous, the reply of the Zaporizhian Cossacks, where similarly to the Tsar, the Sultan tried to impose his will on the Cossacks, and he wrote this long letter saying, "I'm your master," blah blah blah, and they wrote back saying they just totally made fun of him. You know, um, the main difference was the Russians. Here, let's look at Bogdan Melnitsky, hetman of Zaporizhian Cossacks, and he never intended the Ukraine to be subservient in any way. So you guys can check him out, Bogdan Khmelnytsky. It's good guy to read about. Okay, so there's a couple of other things. Mazepa, I don't know who that is, but they talk about him in here. Okay, it says in this article, at the end of the 17th century, the hetmanate, that's the Cossacks, had split into two: those controlled by Moscow and those loyal to fighting for the Poles. In 1708, Ivan Mazepa, a Cossack leader, led a failed uprising against Tsar Peter the Great. So the thing is, the Cossacks were constantly fighting against all different sides trying to take them over. That's the most important thing. So the fact that they're talking about this thing here. So the belief that Mazepa is a traitor to Russians is yet another evident example of the distortion of historical facts. Mazepa was a Ukrainian Cossack leader who was eager to unite historical Ukrainian territories. He formed an alliance with the Swedish king in response to the Tsarist policies, particularly the restrictions imposed on Cossacks' rights. As a result, the Russian church excommunicated Mazepa and continues to distort the history around these events. And then we'll just bring up one last thing. So she says here, I appreciate the author's use of the term Russian-backed forces when referring to the people who started the war in the east of Ukraine in 2014. Numerous media and official persons consciously or unconsciously spread propaganda about separatists there by using incorrect definitions, naming the territories occupied by Russia since 2014 as the Republic of the People of the DNR LNR is another example of using wrongful definitions. So I just wanted to share that with you, and share the Ukrainian viewpoint on these sorts of articles that are they're trying to be pro-Ukraine, but again, they're always written by people who got their degrees in Russian history, not Ukrainian history. So they're doing the best they can, Another complaint was, like, for instance, this article about Zelensky versus Zaluzhny, and his appointment of a new of Starsky. And this is a constant complaint that I get from Ukrainians. Is that it talks about Zelensky, and all about Zelensky's taking a big risk here. And most Ukrainians are like, Zelensky's taking a risk? First of all, Zelensky is just one guy. He's not even, that big of a deal here in Ukraine. And our government makes decisions collectively and democratically. These approvals and appointments that Zelensky is making get approved by the Rada, which is their Congress, their parliament. Why all this focus on just it sounds like the only... Oh, I forgot to button my shirt this morning. God, look. Okay, more coffee. So, I think we all like Zelensky. Everybody loves Zelensky, but he's not the only Ukrainian, So, stop focusing on Zelensky so much. Like it's what I explain to Ukrainians is that it's it's difficult to uh, I mean, the way we understand things as humans is through stories, and I used the analogy of, there were hundreds of thousands probably of people who it's kind of funny, who fought, Sauron in the Lord of the Rings, but we only care about Frodo and maybe Gandalf, because the story is told from the perspective of a specific person. And for the time being, the only Ukrainian that most of the world knows is Vladimir Zelensky. And then for a little while, they knew about this guy called Zaluzhny, right? And before that, Reznikov. And now they have to learn about someone else, and it's like, oh, you know, it's kind of like when I hear from people, oh hey, I have a friend in Ukraine. His name's blah blah blah. Do you know him? It's like, probably not. Wow, Catherine, I went to a Ukrainian church fundraiser. No one under 70. Well, Catherine, in defense of that, in a lot of churches in America, depending on the church that you go to, there is no one under 70. Um, uh, wait, the Legion is like that here, Catherine? No one under 70? um, yeah. Okay. Anyway, so we'll go on. We'll go on. I want to talk about some of the news. I notice I'm doing it. I'm doing this in a new way. Instead of having a million tabs open, I'm bringing up articles one by one. I just bookmark them. So we'll see how that works. I think I mentioned this before, but just bears mentioning again. There's a bunch of these super yachts belonging to Russian oligarchs all over the world. And the United States is spending $7 million a year just to keep up this one. This is a war, goddammit. I mean, I'm about to go full pirate here. Just freaking pull a oh shit, who's the guy from Pirates of the Caribbean? Pull a Jack Sparrow already. Take this damn thing. I wish somebody would. Okay. And all of them, all the ones that are in the Maldives and Japanese ports and Italian ports and Croatian ports. Are they really all that well guarded? I do wonder. Yeah, okay. Let's I don't know if this got reported anywhere, but I think it's significant. Yeah. This is significant not for just Ukrainian war history. This is significant for the world. This is like, Terminator and Matrix shit happening. So it's this, right? Now it's still ultimately controlled by humans remotely, but it's not too far away for these things to become automatic. I mean, they are effectively automatic. The control, in other words, the shots for these things are going off. They're not being aimed by humans. They might be driven to the general area where they're supposed to be by a human, but the gun itself is not going to be controlled by a human. Okay, and that is a huge step towards, freaking Terminator Matrix situations here. I mean, I hate to say it, but this is what this whole war is setting us on a really bad path with between this stuff and the climate change that this is promoting. By the way, I have yes, KKSGG. The machine autonomously decides what to shoot at. Yes, it has an AI, basically object recognition system. Not really an AI. That's trained to recognize a human form and anything moving and shoot it. And it would take me too long to look it up, but I can show you right about the time that the war started. There was a 12-year-old kid who built one of these to be used with like an airsoft gun in Australia, and there was a whole YouTube channel talking about it, showing it. Yeah, this is operator oversight still, Mitch, but ultimately the gun itself fires too fast. The operator doesn't necessarily control that in an immediate sense. It's one step away from a Terminator situation, and if the Ukrainians are developing it, the Russians are 6 months behind. And when they develop this, the Ukrainians might use this in an ethical manner. The Russians will not. Okay. Yeah, operator oversight doesn't need to happen if you don't want it to. Yeah. So, anyway. I think this is an important thing to talk about. And I know this is from a few days ago, but my apologies. I haven't done a live stream in a week. There's some things I want to catch up on. Okay. So in Ukraine, there are 2,500 safety classes where children are taught the basics of civil defense. And people are paying money for this, even for their children. So it includes the rules of road safety, providing first aid, and handling explosive items. And I think those last two are extremely important. How to provide basic first aid, and also how to avoid getting blown up by mines. What happens when your apartment gets blown up by a rocket? Children can, or at least teenagers, can be first responders. They can at least call hey Herb, thanks for coming, man. Cool. Anyway, so that's happening. Yeah. How not to panic about blood. Yeah. How to, so we've talked about before, and a lot of people have talked about the need for Ukraine to fully mobilize. It's happening whether the government takes actions or not. It's just not. It may not happen in the way that we think about. This is happening. So in the occupied territories, farmers are being coerced, pressured into basically giving their grain to Russia, essentially registering their business and giving their grain to Russia, whereas previously they've tried to keep it off the Russian market, keep it local. that sort of thing. And by the same token, let's see if I can find it here. Yeah. So there are collaborators, Russian collaborators, and I'm sure Russian agents, literally going door to door and effectively threatening people that they have to vote in the occupied territories. It says here, members of the quote unquote election commissions went door to door. They collect information and agitate for participation in the election. They promise and threaten to come again with ballot boxes so that everyone can take part in the fake expression of will. It's yeah. Yeah. So it's a thing. I'm gonna try. As you can see, I have way too many news articles here. I think this is a really important thing. And speaking about things that are happening in the occupied territories. Yeah. So Russian troops killed a Ukrainian priest. Tortured, I should say. Tortured and killed. Russia is also implementing this in Russia in terms of trying to get people to vote. I do not know. I don't know about that. Wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know. So yeah, this dude is a priest, and they tortured and killed him. So anytime you see some Russian troll or pro-Russian commentator talk about, oh, Ukraine is anti-Christian, Ukraine hasn't killed any priests, right? I'm sure they've killed more than one, Mitch, but this guy just happens to have been pretty well known and famous in Ukraine. Okay. And he basically refused to convert to the Russian church. That was the situation, So when Tucker Carlson or whoever gives their big spiel about how Ukraine is anti-Christian, remember this name, Stepan Podolchak. Make a comment about it. Just try to remember that name. Ukrainians will. Yeah. Okay. There was a big thing this past week, about the Russian nukes in space. Yeah. White House confirms U.S. has intelligence on Russian anti-satellite capability. So, what this is, from everything that I've read and so maybe they should come after me. Yeah, me too. So everybody was panicking about this for a little while, and in many ways it was just trying to stir up fear. But you know what? Fine. If that's what it takes to wake up Americans to the fact that the Russians are a threat, great. Fantastic. Fantastic. Wake up, America. So, this Russia attempting to develop nuclear space weapon to destroy satellites with massive energy waves. So this is basically, just in case those of you who didn't know, this is not to send nuclear weapons down to Earth, but particularly in space, and this is particularly for low Earth orbit (LEO) satellites. A nuclear weapon can cause an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP blast, that even one that's detonated on Earth, like when Hiroshima, there's records showing that sent up an electromagnetic blast into the stratosphere and upper levels of the atmosphere that basically went around the whole planet. If we had low Earth orbit satellites, yeah, you don't need a nuke to do that at all. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah. Yeah, held a funeral for a Ukrainian soldier and then was detained and tortured by the Russians. He agreed to work with them and then fled the occupied area. Yeah. Oh, Sally. Yeah. Error alert in Kiev. It always happens when I'm doing my live stream, you know. I'm sure if I stepped outside my door, I'd probably hear a thing. Yeah, it's not even about a projectile; it's about the electromagnetic pulse. And it just so happens because of the nature of the stratosphere, and in the low Earth orbit, that's where our Earth's own magnetic field primarily resides. That's where we get the aurora borealis and things. So it's a lot easier for an electromagnetic pulse caused by a nuke or any other thing to travel along those magnetic lines all the way around the Earth, you know. So a weapon of that sort would be, you know, if they're using a nuke to do it, it would be like an area of effect weapon, except the area of effect would be the entire globe. It would pretty much knock out satellites, some permanently, some temporarily. So talking, and it's probably aimed at Starlink, to be honest. No, it is almost 6 a.m. here. But yeah, usually the alarms come between 4 and it's almost 7 a.m. I'm sorry. But yeah, usually the alarms come between 4 and 6 a.m. Yeah, small pulse generators, you know, would be directional, so they could knock out like one satellite. But a nuclear EMP weapon would probably be radiative. In other words, pretty difficult to aim something like that. Also, the space, even low Earth orbit space, outer space is so vast that aiming a weapon like that would be very difficult, and would disperse very quickly. Yeah. So, but hey, you know what? If that's what it's like, this can be like Sputnik. You know, Sputnik kind of woke Americans up. Like, hey, we need to develop our own stuff. You know, so in that sense, good. I'm glad that this news is coming out. Okay. Here's something that is very important that I don't think that this is not something that's sponsored, I don't think, by Russia or anything like that. But and this happened last week. But it's a very tenuous situation, you know. This is going back to this question of mobilization, and all the people who wanted to join the military have, except for me, have joined already. And most people are like, no, I don't want to join. But these protests are starting to happen. These are people saying, hey, please, let our soldiers who've been fighting for 2 years or more, in many say. Yeah, I know about the tungsten rod, 8 foot long and so wide, and yeah, effectively equivalent to a tactical nuke. Yeah, but that's not what the Russian satellite thing is. Anyway, this is a situation that no, Mitch, what Herb is talking about with tungsten. The reason he specifically said tungsten has the highest melting point of any metal. Or wait, I think there's one other. It's one of the highest melting points of any substance on Earth, actually. And so no, it would not completely burn off. That's the exactly the point. Okay. Anyway, this is a touchy situation, guys. You know, with regards to mobilization here, and it needs to happen soon, and everybody knows it, but nobody wants to do it. I hate to say that. I hate to say that. And I hate to say it, but I happen to know Ukrainians who are very close to me who, they're, to quote my wife, well, let me make sure I quote her correctly. It's a dangerous thing to do because she watches my live streams too. But, like, when are you going to support Ukraine? I've asked her. When are you going to start helping? When Ukraine stops stealing from people. So there's this resistance that Ukrainians have, some Ukrainians, which is to say, well, the Ukrainian government is corrupt. Why should I help the Ukrainian government? I mean, it's the exact same problem with getting aid to Ukraine from outside. The same question that a percentage of Ukrainians are asking, and they'll say things like, oh, Ukrainian government, Russian government, it's all the same. It doesn't matter. They're just stealing from people. Like, this is a thing. And of course, what I say to them is, if you think that, you are very, very wrong, and they'll say, well, I've lived in Ukraine longer than you. So what am I going to say to that? But the Russian propaganda works here. And that corruption, of course, was an inheritance from the Soviet Union, So it's the corruption that that Russia promotes in Ukraine and everywhere that has its sticky little fingers, works in two ways, by helping Russia directly and by promoting cynicism and despair in regular people. Just like in the same way that we're going to, at some point, I think, find out that Moscow Mike, for example, was under the pay of the Russians, okay, and has been helping the Russians this whole time. And also, I have no doubt that a lot of the money that's invested in Trump's quote-unquote real estate empire is ultimately coming from Russia, right? But it also has the added benefit of promoting the general idea in people that, oh, it doesn't matter what we do or say, the rich people are going to do rich people stuff, and we're just small people, Yeah, no country has 100% immunity by any means, but to just give up and say, well, it's no use fighting it, is exactly what Putler wants. Yeah. So I'm not saying at all that these people are necessarily in any way, being sponsored by Russia to do these protests. It's a legitimate concern, but it's a fine line, I think this, speaking of Russia's sticky fingers, it's basically been proven that large parts of the OSCE The OSCE were supposed to be the observers, quote unquote, in the over the past 10 years, observing the war in Donetsk and the occupied territories. And it was basically fully infiltrated by Russian spies. It's OSCE, which stands for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Okay. And so Russia's leaving it, which is great. Okay. Because last summer, the OSCE formally recognized Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. So basically, the Russians know that they lost. They know that, they just didn't have enough spies in the OSCE to do all the things that they wanted. And so they're leaving. Which is great. That's what we need to do. This is what will make Russia leave. Okay? Formally call them a state sponsor of terrorism. That's what the United States government needs to do to root out that Russian corruption. Remember, all the things like anybody who even accidentally donated to a cause that eventually gave money to Al-Qaeda or ISIS, these people were prosecuted in America. Okay? Why doesn't Congress want to recognize Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism? Because they know that as soon as they do that, certain members in our Congress and certain members who are no longer the president will be investigated, because our government will have the authority to do that just on that basis alone. Yeah, getting rid of our own corruption would really help the war, because a lot of that corruption, not all of it, but some of it, is coming from Russia. Yeah. KK's GG. I totally get it. Yeah. Totally get it. Okay. Yeah. So that's why this is a big step. I know it's just a proposal, but it really needs to go forward. And the fact that China is fighting this tooth and nail just shows you how serious of a loophole this is. Once America and Europe, it's only going to be a good thing to wean ourselves off. Wouldn't have a quorum in Congress. That's funny, Mitch. The Biden Ukraine corruption story turned out to be a Russian FSB. Wait, no, really? Is that true, Cheryl? The Biden informant in the Ukraine. The informant in the Biden Ukraine corruption story turned out to be a Russian FSB agent named Smirnov. OMG. That's freaking hilarious. Okay. I'm going to have to look that up. Wow. Okay. Smirnov, Biden, corruption. Okay. Oh my God. Like, obviously, his name is Smirnov. OMG. Like, if that wasn't, a dead giveaway. Alexander Smirnov. Amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, the fact that China, the faster we can, and I'm not one of these people who's like, we have to deglobalize and isolate ourselves. I'm not necessarily all about that. I'm just saying that we need to isolate ourselves from China and Russia and cut them off, because every dime that we send to China is 50% of that is going to support Russia, let's say. Yeah. Wow, Cheryl. Thank you for telling. I knew that he was being indicted for lying to the FBI, but I didn't know that his name was Alexander Smirnov. That was the catcher that really got me. Oh, man alive. Oh, you guys make me feel better every time. And a dead giveaway again. Let's see if where is it? Come on, James. Oh yeah, here we go. Orban is having this crisis because he's so he's the prime minister, right? The president in a parliamentary system doesn't really have a lot of power. They're kind of symbolic, more or less, but they have some power. Anyway, she had to step down because she pardoned a pedophile. And the reason that this is such a big deal, if you're wondering, is Hungary makes this is part of their fascism, okay? Is they make this big deal about how pure they are, how good they are, how they're the only, just kind of the same way that Russia likes to do, even though they're not religious. They like to say, "Oh, we're the only ones truly representing Christian values. That's why we hate gays and all other races. It's why we have to have all these scapegoats and don't, tell everybody else to believe in God, but don't follow Jesus's, don't follow Jesus's actual commands, love thy neighbor as thyself." Or maybe they do. Maybe in fact they actually hate themselves. So it all comes out of self-loathing. All of this warfare, right? Yeah. He'd be brown and Jewish, so but and I was thinking about this as we were in a taxi uh on the way to the train station, which I normally wouldn't take a taxi to the train station, but my back was fucking killing me. And I had just done all of this packing and huge giant suitcases and everything. But I was listening to the radio, and it was Hungarian radio with songs that were in Hungarian and English. And there was this song that was in Hungarian and English. And it was all about like, "Oh, we're so pure. We are mothers. We are sisters. We are family. And we are pure." And so they're promoting this like family values. Like that's, a really good thing. But what's coupled with it is this: we are we, and these others are not us, and they are not human, and they are, um and I don't think I have the article up, but there's been huge protests in Hungary. Huge protests, tens of thousands, and I'm sorry I don't have the article up, and they're not just protesting against this situation. They're using this as an opportunity to protest against the general corruption of Orban's government, which Orban, I think, sees the noose tightening, the end coming, and that's one reason why he's snuggling up to China, sending big, let's see, Orban, China. Yeah. So we have Orban and China deepening security ties. Okay. And China is saying things like, respect is very rare in diplomacy these days. And basically, respect is very rare in diplomacy these days. So we're glad to see it from Hungary. Basically, Hungary is having to kowtow to Xi Jinping here because they know that their bread is not going to get buttered for very long in the EU. You know, it's going to be really interesting because this fascism. By the way, I want to see if I can find it here. Yes, right here. This is the article I was looking for. So you may not know about this, but Hungary, and I've been told this by many Ukrainians, and I kind of wasn't sure about it, but now I've done the research. So Hungary has a very strong fascist tradition because basically they were allies with, the original Hitler. They were allies with the original Hitler, and yet apparently, so I'm told, and I'm sorry, I don't have a full academic understanding of this particular history, but during World War II, they were largely spared in a different way than um, hmm, anyway. So let's see. The whole BLM and Antifa thing started with an LGBT march blocking the streets in California. They started getting away with it, and others ran with it. Well, California has a large, or maybe not large, but certainly loud um, fascist minority, and I know because I physically fought them. Um, 2016, in fact, 6 of my friends in Antifa uh, showed up to protest against a neo-Nazi rally. Oh God, now YouTube's gonna ban this. Shouldn't have said the word. But they showed up to protest against that, and 6 of them were stabbed. Stabbing Sacramento. Let's see. Should be able to find it. Yeah, 7. Okay, I'm sorry. 7. So these anti-fascists were stabbed by the neo N-words, and then the police charged the Antifa protesters, even though they had been stabbed. So we know in general what side the police are on in America. But anyway, going back to this particular thing here, so there was, for some reason in Italy, a woman who was, I guess she was a teacher in Hungary from northern Italy. She was protesting against. Her name is Ilaria Salas. She was protesting against the fascist stuff in Hungary, and she was arrested. She's still being held in jail. Ilaria Salas. And this is causing a big problem because the current government of Italy is also pretty much neo-fascist themselves. So so this is going on. I'm just saying that a lot of Ukrainians tell me that basically the Hungarians never learned. They never learned the lesson that Germany did after World War II. To them, World War II kind of passed them by, apparently, and they went straight from fascism to kind of neo-communism, and a lot of them, uh, a lot of the older the people at that time, they're still Holocaust deniers and all of this type of stuff. Now, that's mostly the older generations in Hungary, and so the younger generation people are mostly pro-Ukraine, but this is a struggle that's happening. All right. How am I doing? Yeah, we're coming up on the 1.5 hours, and so we know about. I mean, there's been a lot of news in the past week about Avdiivka, right? We know that. Listen, this past week, my my Ukrainian friends, both inside and outside Ukraine, have been just freaking out, really freaking out between the total lack of shells, this whole stupid thing with the U.S. Congress, and losing Avdiivka. This has been a week of absolute despair here in Ukraine, is what I'm telling you, is what I want to let you know. And Ukrainians are great Odin's beard. I've missed you guys. Yeah. So I love what Tridents Against Tyrants is doing. Promoting, calling Congress, emailing our Congress, trying to have whatever impact we can have. I mean, I can just tell you, I had to do like actual meditation in my lessons this week with my students, because I had to be like, okay, and this is the meditation that I usually do. Come on, James. Look, you can see my what you can see what kind of things I watch. But so this is, and I put this in on my community tab, and I recommend everybody watch it at least once a day. I think maybe I can't watch it with the sound on, because I'm sure the music in the background is copyrighted. But I recommend everybody watch it.
Sit or lie comfortably, quietly.
All right. Anyway, it's really funny. So yeah, Mitch. Austro-Hungarian as a big power days aren't real far back, yeah. And Austria learned the lesson from. Yeah. Okay. Oh my God. This is awful, guys. This is freaking awful right here. I don't know if anybody saw this, but the pilot of the Russian Federation who overtook a helicopter. Okay, this is a bad translation. So this kid, he's 21 years old, I think, or 23 maybe. He was like, "Screw this stupid war. This sucks," and he took his Mi-8 helicopter from Russia to Ukraine, and also he had his family, his wife and kids apparently gotten out of Ukraine first before he did that, and he was shot dead in Spain. He was shot dead in Spain yesterday or the day before. This sucks. This is a disaster, and let me explain why. Okay, because now what's going to be the motivation? What's going to be the motivation for other future Ukrainian, I should say, Russian soldiers to defect? If they know that they are also going to be hunted down by the KGB. Why wasn't he under, why wasn't he under protection in the EU? Why wasn't he in like some kind of a witness protection program? Yeah, exactly. This is going to dissuade others from from coming forward, from defecting. And I mean, I blame Ukraine, but I especially blame Spain. I especially blame Spain for allowing this to happen, because they did. Right? It's really fucked up. And there are many others, many others, who have been in. If you want to know what I'm doing, by the way, I'm putting vitamin C tablets in my tea right now. Anyway, it's should have changed his name. Fucking, like, I mean, what the hell, man? This is a freaking mess. This sucks. This is a disaster in many ways, and I know, yeah, it's been a hard week. Okay, I think that this is. Why is it not showing? Give me a picture. This is as big of a deal as Navalny, in my mind. I think maybe Navalny being killed might just wake up a few people in Europe or whatever. Maybe it's waking up Russians, arguably. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, U.S. not helping people, or us not helping people in Ukraine with unlimited supplies, to tell Russians anyway that we're not serious. It's a problem. There's a problem. Right. I can't believe they weren't still with him, at least for surveillance. Like how the hell did they let this happen? Yeah, and China is watching and learning and planning. And if you guys don't know, China's got their spies all over the place too. Just witness the piano player in England. If you guys don't know about that, this has been a big pianist, China, London. This guy, this has been going on for at least a month now. This guy became famous now, but he was filming himself for, like, live streaming, playing piano at a public piano. It was actually donated by, oh my god, famous. Sorry, didn't mean to get so close to the microphone. Famous gay, Elton John. Donated Elton John's piano in the right by platform 9 3/4 by Harry Potter. I mean, this kind of a thing. Yeah, Dr. Boogie. And I mean, it was obviously staged by these Chinese spies. For some reason, they felt like they could flex Chinese power in England or something. I don't know what they thought they were doing, but it clearly backfired. They've become famous now as Chinese spies. But just remember, they're actively, even in America, threatening Chinese Americans who don't support China properly. Even to the extent of having their own spies effectively running for United States Congress. Yeah, Brendan Kavanaugh. Thank you. Yeah. So another example here of insiders, right? Academics in the US, UK, and Australia collaborated on drone research with an Iranian university. So this is like, we need to button down the hatches here, people. Okay? Sorry, I can't bring up the whole article. But we allowed all of these ties to take place, thinking that, oh well, we'll influence them towards the good and we'll work with them, and they're using it in the other direction. Anna, that's very interesting. A former professor at my old campus a few years back for spying for China. Yeah. And they've been doing that since long well into the Cold War. In other words, the communists in general. Yeah. So why are these shaheeds being used? Coming to Ukraine? Well, partly it's because we let them in. Yeah. Right. They have police station of their own in the States. The Chinese do, and Canada. They have China has its own police stations in other countries, not just like worldwide, not just Canada and the United States. They literally set up police stations, So it's like, oh my god. So we just gotta. I mean, we got to do that, but at the same time, we got to beat them here in Ukraine. Beat them every day. Because all of that spying and networking, it all comes down to the fulcrum of all of that hybrid warfare. The fulcrum is here in Ukraine. So I'm glad to see this. We got Sweden producing shells. There's also, let's see if I can find Rheinmetall. This is going to happen. So 6-digit number. So at least 100,000 shells a year at a new factory here in Ukraine. Let's hope it's well protected with air defense. Apart from this statement, there is little known about the new plant that will produce 150. But the question is, how long is it going to take to open? That's really the question. Is it going to happen? Is it going to open up this year? Oh, okay. Here it says. Oh, no. It doesn't say. It doesn't say. How long is it going to take to open that? That's what we need to know. We need it. Maybe we don't need to know exactly, but a lot of people need to know, Oh, Cambridge Analytica. Yeah. Yeah, Steve Bannon. Exactly. So, okay. I'm sorry. I've gotten you guys all riled up. And I guess support Ukraine. You'll notice on my website now, I've taken some things off and added some things on. So secondhand clothing is gone because I'm no longer in the part of Ukraine where I can regularly buy large amounts of secondhand clothing. Socks are off. Now, a couple of people ordered a bunch of socks and ordered a bunch of secondhand clothing. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop ordering those things. I just can't necessarily order them in the volume that I did before. Oh, shit, Luke, thank you. I forgot to talk about that. Damn it, is it in my list? About Czechia and the, oh my God, learn to spell, James. Czechia artillery. And Denmark. Okay. Right? So Czech Republic, 800,000 shells. But what they're saying is they can be, and thank God, because I did why it's not in my list is because I shared it in my history. On the community tab. Okay. So there's Denmark is going to give all of its artillery shells to Ukraine. Because what do they need artillery shells? This is very well reported, though. It's probably why I didn't. And then Czech Republic. But the Czech Republic is saying they can only be delivered after the Czech Republic receives funding from its partners. So it's applied to the United States, Germany, Sweden, and others for funding for that. So it's not fully there, and but let's between Denmark and the Czech Republic, that could really really make a difference. Oh my God, hang on, there's something in my eye. I could really make a difference. There's cause for hope, but boy, is this ever the winter of our, I don't know, despair, discontent. Let's see. What was the other thing I wanted to share and talk about here? Yeah, this one here. Okay, so this is the Forbes article. Joe Biden could send. This is, it is my finger in my eye. I stuck my finger in my eye, and now my eye's like, stop sticking your finger in here. Thanks, Herb. Joe Biden could send millions of artillery shells to Ukraine for free tomorrow, and it's perfectly legal. Yeah, you're right. It's all about money. Anna, that's exactly right. So if you guys are writing letters to senators, while you're at it, write one to the White House and say, hey, use the EDA to send artillery shells to Ukraine. Yeah, the you first. Yeah, I'm tired of hearing the you first policy. Exactly. Like, send it to Ukraine. Well, you do it first, or I don't. It makes no sense. Why? And Olaf Scholz is getting blamed for a lot of that, but I think Biden has done the same thing. Like, we don't want to be the first ones to send help to Ukraine. Why? Why don't you? Escalation. Look, that is so much bullshit. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Okay. So help is on the horizon, perhaps, which is good. Transnistria has stuff. Yeah, they do. To be honest, I mean, Ukraine needs to make a deal. Okay, last time I put my finger in my eye, it's just, I think it's just sleep in my eye because it's early as fuck. Yeah. What MIC doing? Sorry, Cheryl. What's MIC stand for? Transnistria has stuff. So I really think that it's time that Ukraine made a deal with Moldova to just finish this Transnistria thing. Kick the Russians out. Taurus doesn't even work. That's interesting, Mitch. Interesting. Taurus missile not working. Would that be because of the electronic warfare? Interesting. Taurus evades question on transfer. Okay, he's evading question on. Okay. So they're right. Yeah. Okay. Maybe they're concerned that they'll send it there and it won't work. I see what you're saying. Yeah. But there's gonna be. It'll work somewhat. No, I mean, the Taurus is basically the same as oh my God, what's the other missile, the British one, the one that the Brits sent. It's basically the same thing, and those are working just fine. So, I think that's an overabundance of caution. Oh, military-industrial complex. Thank you, Cheryl. Sorry about that. Yeah, more coffee. I had coffee, but no breakfast. Aha. Too much blood in my caffeine. Storm Shadow. Thank you, Catherine. Storm Shadow. So yeah, I think that it's just about time that I went and had breakfast. Yeah, that's what's going to need to happen soon. But I did want to talk about just a couple last things. Just a very interesting. Oh yeah, here we go. This is Mikhailo Fedorov, and he, is an example. Yeah, more cardboard drones. Thank you, Catherine. Yes. Okay, I'm down to tea now. No more coffee. This may not seem like a big deal. Okay. The first electronic notary services are expected to be available this spring. This may not seem like a very big deal. Okay. But here in Ukraine, it's massively important. You have no freaking idea. Protein in your caffeine stream, yeah. But this, I'm talking about this notary services thing because, first of all, it sounds crazy for those of us who are, in the United States. But notaries are paid more than lawyers in Ukraine. More than lawyers. When you go to thank you, Luke, for bringing that up about Artur Rehi and his drones. I'm about to talk about that. Anyway, when you go to Ukraine, one of the first things that I noticed when I first came to Ukraine is that notaries are everywhere, freaking everywhere. And Catherine, or those of you who have come to Ukraine, are you may have noticed this too. When I first came to Ukraine, I saw all these signs, and remember, I didn't read Cyrillic at first, and like the letter N in Cyrillic looks like an H, and so it to me, the word notary in Cyrillic looks a lot like the word hot topic. Okay. And Hot Topic is a chain of I promise sleep deprivation is not making me do this. Hot Topic, for those of you who are not American, Hot Topic is a chain of like goth and like rock and roll. I'm denied access to Hot Topic. Oh, that's so sad. Hot Topic is a chain of okay, stores that sell, like, if you want to get new piercing jewelry and yeah, so if you want to get, like, your rock and roll t-shirt with whatever really obscure goth band you really like, they'll probably have it at Hot Topic. Okay. And so when I first came to Ukraine, I was like, wow, there's a lot of Hot Topics here. That's hilarious. Wow. All right. And Cypher, welcome. Or Chifer, thanks for coming. So yeah, it's these are usually at the mall or whatever. Notary services here in Ukraine are extremely important because almost everything until this guy came along and started the digital sort of digitization of government records and things. Almost everything is done on paper. And so if you want to get anything done here, you have to, oh my God, Ukrainians are so obsessed with these official documents. It's all from like the communist era, right? They carry around these big binders of all of their official documents for everything that they've ever done, everything they've ever freaking owned or looked at, And I swear to God, these documents, they're like tied with a special golden string that only notaries can use. And they look like some sort of like medieval, like some sort of medieval sealed official charter that you would hold up, before the king and say, my family has ruled these lands for 1,000 years. I mean, it's just exactly like that. But the reason that this is important is because it's also a huge. Thank you, Luke. Nothing deceives like a document. And I apologize, I have not yet done my research on William Stevenson, but boom, you hit it right on the head. Nothing deceives like a document. These documents are obviously easily faked, no matter how much special string and printing, and no matter how carefully, covered in plastic they are. They're obviously easily faked under, today's modern technology. The reason that notaries are paid more and much more common than lawyers here in Ukraine is that these notary services are actually a huge source of corruption, massive source of corruption here in Ukraine, and everyone knows it. Okay, so this digital transition that the Ministry of Digital Transformation, they actually have a interesting. So he's now Deputy Prime Minister for Innovation, Education, Science, and Technology Development. Ugh. This guy, I swear to God, he's gonna be. He will. I think he will be the next president of Ukraine, not Zelensky or anyone else. And Minister of Digital Transformation. If not, he's going to be like the power behind the throne for many, many years. Luckily, he seems like a good guy for now. But he has done, I think, a lot of. Oh, Tucker Carlson, KK's GG. You just created. He's from now on. You just created the new name, Tucker Carlson. Thank you very much. So this is of all of the things that could be done. Oh, no, this is not the railway guy, but the railway guy would be like his vice president, I think. Niche, but they're young guys, and they're good people. Oh yeah, life in Nepal. Oh, that's interesting, Cheryl. Yeah, it potentially it can take a really long time, but they've already actually begun that because they have this thing called DIA, which they've already been implementing since 2019 or 20, I believe. So yeah, but I understand that this is about 20 years behind most of the United States, but this is going to be anyway. The point is, this is a big step in the way of, and it's going to be there won't be a need. There's going to be a lot of out of work notaries. Okay, is what I'm saying. Can you imagine, like, notaries make more than lawyers in Ukraine? Lawyers don't make that much money in Ukraine. My wife's a lawyer. She does, it's not a big thing. Notaries make a shit ton of money. It's amazing. So that's the deal. And then the last piece of news I want to talk about is Navalny. And this, yeah, it's a huge step towards limiting corruption. He didn't open his folder, just waved it around. I didn't watch that far into the Tucker Carlson interview, but this is, this video here. If YouTube ever decides to play it, because I have an ad blocker. Yeah, and there were a lot of questions about digitization and whether it would, the effects that it would have, and it's turned out to be mostly positive. But anyway, this is just a eerie So this is Navalny's body. And they, hiding the evidence. They're hiding the evidence. My God, could they do it in a less obvious way, though? Yeah, exactly. You can be a notary for, $5 or $15. You just take or $45 or something. You just take the test and boom, I'm a notary. But in Ukraine, man, in fact, there's a limit in Ukraine on this is Navalny's. Anyway, whatever the case, it's weird, and it's classic Russian. I mean, they're hiding it in an obvious way. Look, Navalny's killing right before Putin's fake election was a flex, and it was done strictly to satisfy Putler's sick, just to satisfy his own sick satisfaction of, just, I don't even think it had necessarily a propaganda purpose. I mean, maybe, arguably, but just to satisfy Putler's psychopathy, sociopathy, in the same way that, all the other people that he's had tortured, and he likes to do things that are sort of symbolic and disgusting. So, is it waking up Russians? A little, but not enough. I mean, it's too little, too late. It does show that there are some good Russians out there, Yeah. Oh, yeah. And yeah, right. He did it. It was like the perfect timing for him. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Maybe he was poisoned again, and they don't want it to poison anyone else until it breaks down. Yeah. So yeah. But the problem is that, this is not enough. It's not enough. Clearly, it's not enough. So, Putler is a killer. And that's that. Simple as. So that kind of rounds up my live stream today. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. If you want to support the work that I'm doing, now that I'm in a different part of Ukraine and I can safely send off these items, feel free to order a magnet. Now these I've actually added, like, I have the stock of these. I'm tracking the stock as well, so that before I wasn't tracking the stock, and somebody ordered like 3 of them, and I didn't have 3 of them, and I had to order it from another side of the country. And then when I tried to send them, from the western part of Ukraine, as you guys may remember, they said that, sorry, you can't send things with Ukrainian symbols. And I think I figured out that it was being blocked because it had to go through the Hungarian border. If you guys remember that, it's craziness. But so now I can send this stuff. Probably the most important thing that you can buy if you want to support, Ukraine's military right now are tourniquets. Right now I have orders outstanding for 10 tourniquets, but I need more, because I'm going to send these directly to the front line, to Alpha Company 1st Battalion. They are, let's say, in the general Chasiv Yar area. Thanks, Herb. But like they have to pull somebody off the front line, which of course my guy's always ready. He's like, yeah, I'll get off the front line for a day. But it's not worth it for them to do that for 10 tourniquets. That's barely enough for like 1.5 people. So I need to be sending like 30 tourniquets, 40, 50 tourniquets. Okay. Secondarily, if you want to help, I still don't have enough. I thought I was going to have enough to buy armor plates, and I don't. Right now, I've got on order 2 plate carriers. I don't need any more plate carriers until I get armor plates to go with them, and I don't have enough for even 1 set. So that's 2 armor plates. A set of 2 runs about $600, but I think I can get them a set for $400. It's pushing it, and right now I have $177 is what's been contributed. The last thing I'd like to talk about is Tony. Oh shit! I accidentally took him off. Yeah, I took him off because he is in Poland right now. I can't tell you where in Poland, but he is. I mean, I can tell you, but I'm not going to publicly, obviously. But he is on his way to Ukraine as we speak. So, you guys all helped with that, and I want to thank everybody for the surprise. Yes, and postage should be included, KK, on the magnets. Let me just check and make sure on that while I'm talking. I'm gonna I better make sure. Okay. Let's go to checkout. Crap. Okay, shipping method. Okay, it should be. In other words, shipping method should be listed here. If you put in your address and it doesn't give you some sort of shipping information, or this will be shipped to you, blah blah blah, or this is the charge for shipping it, please message me or give me a comment in one of the live streams and say, hey, shipping's not working on the magnets. Please let me know. My next thing is I'm going to deal with PayPal, okay, and get PayPal set up. But God, I have so little time. I have 5 classes to teach today and more coming every day. So I get like one thing done a week, essentially. Anyway, so thank you, yeah, so porch talk. So thank you, everyone, for coming. And I just really appreciate it. Slava Ukraine. And Doba Bachanya. And Shere Khan. Thank you, Shere Khan, for helping to send. I have no class, Max. Okay, all right. Goodbye, everybody.